My name is Watchilla. I'm the Director of Planning for the town of East Longmeadow. I work in the Planning and Conservation Office. Today I want to talk about the Planning Board and some recent confusion about the types of permits that the Planning Board issues. And I just wanted to talk to you today to clarify what these permits are and why they matter. So the Planning Board issues three different types of permits. The first of which is called special permit, the second of which is called site plan review, and the third one, which is a bigger category, are subdivision permits, which includes A&Rs and definitive subdivision plans. So a special permit is a land use approval, which is regulated by state law, and basically what it is, it allows for a certain type of what we call use to exist on a property. And the Planning Board issues a discretionary approval, which either could be approved or could be denied based on how the board makes their findings, which affects the community, neighboring residents, and town resources. So the types of uses that the Planning Board can grant special permits for include business uses, commercial uses, industrial, pretty much anything that's not a residential use in this town. The board does have the final say on whether or not these uses could be approved, and they apply what are called special permit criteria to each of these different projects. And if they don't meet all the criteria, the board has the legal authority to deny a special permit. So in East Longmeadow, site plan review is when the Planning Board reviews a proposal to construct a commercial or industrial building and also looks at site layout in connection to the building itself. So typically, site plan review governs things that are allowed by right, which means the Planning Board cannot legally deny them to be constructed. So that usually it focuses on a building that's not a residential building, focuses on the layout of the building, the size, where it can be placed on the property. They look at the site as a whole, the way it's laid out, the stormwater design, the traffic that's affected by the building. They look at other features such as the parking lot, how many parking spaces you can have, and then landscaping. So subdivision plans are when you take a piece of land and you typically work with a surveyor to divide the land into smaller pieces of land. These are not as common as the other two types of permits seen by the Planning Board. So every petition does get the same review by the Planning Board, and they look at every petition the same from a point of fairness, equity, and they look at public safety and how that's affected by each petition. So the biggest difference between special permit and site plan review is that special permits are discretionary, which means that the Planning Board has the legal authority to either approve or to deny a special permit. Site plan review is something that's allowed by right, which means the board does not have any legal authority to deny a site plan review unless the applicant does not provide all the needed information up front for the petition and the public hearing. So the second difference between special permit and site plan review is that special permits focus mostly on the use itself and the way that it's operated and how it affects neighboring residences and the town as a whole. Site plan review focuses on the building and the site layout itself, but you can also include traffic and stormwater design into the mix as well, and how that relates to the use of the building and the land. So yes, technically you can apply for both special permit and site plan review at the same time. This is very common for larger projects. So for example, if somebody wanted to put a 5,000 square foot commercial retail store in a district where it's required by special permit, that person would need to apply for both a special permit and site plan review application at the same time. They're treated as two separate public hearings, but they can occur at the exact same time. And that's when folks can talk about both things together. So talk about the use, they could talk about the building, the layout, pretty much everything. First thing the Planning Board does, they typically read the legal notice into the record, which means they announce the public hearing, the date, the time, the address of the property, what they're applying for, what type of permit, and who the petitioner is. Usually the last part is the most important because the petitioner is the person that speaks on behalf of the petition. After the legal notice is read into effect, the chair gives the applicant the ability to propose their project, whether it's working with a lawyer, an architect, a consultant, or the applicant just speaks themselves. Afterwards, the public has the opportunity to comment on the petition. So every single person during a public hearing has the right to be heard during the public hearing. And after the public comment portion of the hearing is closed, the board then closes the public hearing and then deliberates amongst each other. And once that happens, the board then renders their findings on the petition, which means they apply the East Longmeadow zoning bylaw to each petition on a case-by-case basis to ensure that the petition does not go against the intent of our zoning regulations and also does not pose any threat to the safety, health, or well-being of folks around the site. And typically after the findings are made, the board then can issue conditions on each petition if they wanted to. And these conditions usually pertain to further regulation of the use on the site in connection to the petition. Sometimes the board may not be able to fully make a decision on the night of a public hearing. They might request to have it continued to a future date and time. During public hearings, the board is technically allowed to condition it for as long as they need to, specifically for special permits and for site plan review public hearings. If the board feels that it can make a decision on the night of the public hearing or at a further date, they'll then take their motion to either vote to approve or to deny a petition. So typically, the planning board tries to make the public hearing process as transparent and accessible as possible. Typically, if you want to view the documents for a petition, you can either go to the Town of East Longmeadow webpage and go to the planning board page and look for their active case files. Or you can come to Town Hall and we can happily provide some of the documents to you in physical copy if that's a more preferred option. If you wanted your comments heard during the public hearing, typically you would take a comment and either send it to myself, the Director of Planning, or to one of our staff, and we would put that comment into the board's meeting packet so they can see the comment prior to the hearing. It's your democratic right as a member of the public to speak up during the public comment portion of the meeting, to submit a letter to the planning board for their review. Folks typically express disapproval, support, questions, or just don't know what's happening with a project, which is totally fine. The board does have, at the end of the day, the sole authority to approve or deny a project. We always encourage folks to attend these meetings when they can, to speak up as a member of the public, as a resident, as a neighbor, no matter what you are. We want you to be at a meeting, to voice your concerns, to show that you support a project, don't approve a project. We care about your input. Your input matters to us, it matters to my department, and we're always looking for ways to improve how we do things, how more accessible we can be to the public, or even just take criticism and feedback. We're willing to adapt and make it easier for folks to attend these hearings.